Rob Bradford, thank you for joining us. How are you feeling today?
I've never felt better. I've an honor to talk to you fine folks. I look forward to both John and Andy yelling McFarland. Thank you very much. At some point today, you don't have to do it now, but yell McFarland. It'll make you feel a whole lot better. So thank you for having me.
Where are we catching you?
I'm actually home. I'm home. Yes.
You're at home?
Why do you look so surprised?
Because I thought maybe you were just like out in Kansas City. I never know where you are. You're always on the road.
That 3-city leg punctuated by me falling on my face in the pavement, that took a lot out of me. So, yeah, and by the way, I want to thank the fine folks at the Cape Cod League.
I was gonna ask you if you wanted to bring this up or not, Rob.
Yeah. So first of all, they're such nice people. I've got the chance I did the All-Star game there. I'm to the Home Run Derby and did the All-Star game for Destin. And then on Sunday, for the first time in my life, I would like to say I threw out the first pitch, but I don't think what I did was actually throwing anything. So I didn't realize that how bad my wrist was still from my scooter accident. And it is much like Joe Castiglione falling out of the chair in Houston and the Andrew Benintendi catch, or even John F. Kennedy getting shot. We won't have any definitive film of me throwing the first pitch for the Wareham Gateman.
Are you sure? Because my husband showed me a video of it last night and said this is a rough look for Rob.
Oh, is it circulating?
Do you have I don't know how he got it, but he showed it to me, and I just said he had a scooter accident.
Can I just tell you, I was doing it with a broken wrist. So, but it was not pretty. It was about as ugly as you could. The way I would describe it, as long as it's out there now, is that I threw it about 20 feet and about 20 feet to the left. I don't think I could have done that again if I tried, but it's good content. Yeah, and the great game of baseball was a real winner by just me being there, so that's great.
Red Sox win. Okay, well, Rob, while we're talking about injuries, I wanted to ask you about a story we discussed yesterday, and it's just another weird story from Triston Casas. I'm sure you know which one I'm talking about. Casas giving conflicting reports over the weekend, updates, I should say. He tells Chris Cotillo he feels pretty fine from Mass Live. Then he goes over to the Nesson reporter and says he feels like he's getting stabbed by knives. What did you make of that whole situation, and what sounded like a pretty unhappy response from Alex Cora on the record, talking about them being on the same page?
So yeah, I was there with Chris. So it was a dual interview, and we both talked to Triston Casas and Worcester, and when he said it, and I think we pulled the audio from it for Saturday's show, and the quote was, "The pain is minimal." I mean, quote unquote, the pain is minimal. So we get up to the press box and we see Laura, the sideline reporter for Red Sox, Laura Sickles, and she had the quote saying it felt like stabbed by knives. And we're both looking at each other like, what? Like, that's not what he just told us an hour ago. And then so the next day, Alex Cora addresses it on the record, which I was sort of surprised about. I think it was in Texas. And I think it was one of these things where that Triston a lot of times sort of leans into, he understands that how much we appreciate the drama of it all. But I will say this, I do think, and I told Laura this, I think that it was probably more on the side of the pain is more on the side of what he told her than the pain was minimal. Now, why Alex Cora and the Red Sox were probably upset were they say, hey, listen, we're not sending this guy out there with knives stabbing in his chest. He's okay. It's okay to play. I do think that this is something that he's going to have to get over, as he has said in the subsequent days. It's something that he's going to have to get over. He is getting over it. He's playing. He wouldn't be playing if this was going to damage him anymore. So, yeah, but it's just another thing where he's good for business. He's good for Netflix business. He's good for our business.
So just to clarify, you do believe he's in some significant discomfort when he's hitting?
I don't think significant, Andy. I don't think significant discomfort, because I don't think if it was significant that he would be playing.
Okay.
I think that when you're talking about, there's not a lot of examples of this injury for baseball players, in where you say, oh, well, look, this guy came back from it here. It's rib cartilage in the middle of your chest. So I got to imagine that's pretty important, and it's going to take a long time to heal. But all of that said, I do feel like as long as they say you're not going to rip open your rib cartilage anymore, and you are feeling okay, well enough, and I mean he's been playing actually pretty well the last couple games he's played. So yeah, I mean I think there's probably some discomfort, but that sort of comes with the territory, and it's good enough to play.
Okay, so understanding that and how well he's swinging the bat. I talked to Lou the other day when I filled in on the midday show, and he was, let's just say, cautious in his expectations for Casas. Like, oh, it's going to take a while for the timing, and then who knows, and maybe by September he'll be contributing. What are your expectations for him when he finally gets back to Boston?
I think that when he gets back to Boston, now he's got the 20 days, right, in Worcester, and he's only, not even a weekend?
Right.
But so once he gets back to Boston, the expectations has to be that he's going to be productive. It can't be anything else. And I think Casas told us this, where he said, I shouldn't be there if I'm 75% if we have someone who's better than I. And this isn't the Red Sox problem right now. Not having Triston Casas isn't their problem. Dom Smith has been good enough. Dom Smith has been fine. And the Red Sox offense is the best offense in all of baseball. So if you have to draw this out as long as you can with Casas and make sure he's as right as possible. And if he is right, then he is a better player than Dom Smith. He is a valued piece of the equation heading into the last month and a half. There's no question about it. But this idea of like, oh, he's slow playing it. Oh, he has to come back early. Like, what are we talking about? First of all, it's a rib cartilage. Second of all, there's no rush to get there shouldn't be any rush to get this guy back because they're the only team in baseball since the All-Star break with an OPS over 900, and they've scored more runs than anybody. So take your time, get the good Triston Casas back.
Rob, I want to ask you about Brian Bayo. He has the start tonight, and after a tough few months this summer, he had a good start against Seattle, 6 1/3, 2 runs. Do you think that's the start of maybe a positive trend in this second half for him, or do you think it's just kind of one good start and he's just having a tough year?
I think my guess is that he's going to be better than certainly than when he had that downturn, but he's better be. This is the problem with their deadline. We can do the whole C+, B- thing. It was probably what I would give him as well, and they did a good job with the bullpen, and I think Danny Jansen's useful, and so in Paxton obviously, but they left themselves wide open if these starters take a turn for the worse. And we've seen all of these starters at some point in the last couple of months take a turn for the worse, including Bayo. So you have to figure out who is going to be your go-to guy. And you can't have the starts. You can't, in other words, tonight, you can't have a bad Brian Bayo. You can't do that. You can't have this guy fall apart because now the games matter. Now the games, you can say, well, we're, early August, whatever it is. But here's the thing. If you lose the next 2 games, you lose the tiebreaker against the Royals. If you lose the next 2 games, you're 3.5 back of the Kansas City Royals, the team you're chasing. You need the starting pitching to be good. You need to have the best version of them. And I do think that, fortunately for the Red Sox, in the last couple of times, they've actually got closer to that with Brian Bayo.
I'm wondering, as you're watching this rotation game by game, is there anything that you can see so obvious that the rest of us are missing on what they need to do to get Tanner Houck back on track? Not even to be the guy that he was in the first quarter or third of the season, but just somewhere that's more of a middle ground.
The thing is, Mego, I don't understand why they don't do what they used to do with starting pitchers, which is give them a sort of a built-in break. Like with Tanner Houck, you have a guy who was entering, we all knew this was foreign territory in terms of workload. We all knew this was coming. So, and sure enough, he hasn't been awful, but he certainly hasn't been the guy that they need him to be, which is we don't need a number 1 starter because we have Tanner Houck. So you have to find a way to recharge his batteries. I mean, pitchers are going to go through this, but the biggest thing is this a bump in the road? Is this just like a little bit of a spell, and he's going to come out of it just in the nick of time and go on a run in September and then in October? Like, we don't know that either, but I would suggest that the problem here is pretty obvious to me, which is the guy has pitched more than he has ever pitched and pitched at a level and pitching deeper into games than he has ever pitched. So that's going to catch up to you at some point. I don't know if he's going to catch his second wind, but if you're asking what the solution for me, I'm like, okay, just find some ways to give the guy some rest and then see what you have, because we're not only talking about September. This is maybe the most important guy. If you want to actually win a playoff series, this is where you win it. You line up your starting pitchers and you have people who can go up against their best starting pitchers, and that's Tanner Houck.
All right. Oh, Andy's got one more.
Yeah, you brought it up, so I wanted to follow up on it because it was something I kind of forgot about. This whole Netflix thing. Have they stumbled into something that I'm really going to – because I had no interest. Coming into this season, I was thinking it may not be a great season. I might not enjoy watching it once, never mind watching it again in documentary form afterwards. But have they stumbled into some really good material here?
Well, I would say that – have you seen The Last Chance U ones on Netflix?
Yes.
No, I heard that it's just like something I'm going to get way too invested in. So I'm keeping myself away from it.
Stupid, fun, good series. Yeah. And so they basically, and you know this, but they follow the JUCO teams, the football team and basketball teams. And this is what I always said, even going back to spring training, where we're like, you're really picking this team to follow around? They can make anything interesting. And really, like, what we were bracing, or what we said you should be bracing for, Boston Red Sox, is that when things go bad, they're not going to look at how hard they're working. No. I mean, you watch those series, not everybody comes out looking like rosy.
Right.
So they got to make anything look interesting. I see any of these constructs on Netflix or wherever, and like, oh my goodness, I want to watch the Canelo fight on, HBO. I want to watch, I all of a sudden want to watch tennis. I mean, this is a great construct. So it was going to be interesting no matter what. But I think, to your point, I think that they have, I don't know, stumbled upon, but they have gotten very, very fortunate. I mean, you have an interesting team, a team with good storylines, with the core stuff, the deadline. Even the All-Star game, they were out of the All-Star game with Jaron Duran family, and the guy wins the All-Star game MVP. So are they around all the time? No, they weren't around. They missed the boat in Colorado. They missed the boat in the whole Reese McGuire drama and all that. They weren't there for that. You can't be there for everything. And I think that a lot of those guys on that crew had no idea how long a baseball season is. But so far, I think that this, if you're going to ask me what I think it's going to be, I think it's going to be really, really good.
All right. Well, I guess we'll see that like next spring, right? I don't know how quickly they turn these things around, but it's going to be a while.
Next spring. Like, at the same time, you'll see my first pitch.
Okay.
So,
okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to, what? I might have to dig that up and share it with the people.
Now I know how you saw it. So
do you know how I saw it?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
But much like I have seen Joe Castiglione fall out of his chair in the Andrew Benintendi catch, but everybody has been very sympathetic to Joe and not showing anybody. I plead with you, Mego, do not show anybody that video.
Okay, we'll talk off air. He's Rob Bradford of Baseball Isn't Boring.